everyone. I'm Naomi here at Quality Sewing and Vacuum.
And I'm Linda James.
And we have so fun for the February edition. So sorry for the delay, we're a little bit late. We're back on track, had a little bit of camera issues, but we're gonna get going now. And so if you're not aware of what So Fun is, it is a kind of like a trunk show where we bring in samples that we've made and we go over different tips and techniques, and we just have fun and have a lot of fun educating you. Also, something to know is we give away 2 prizes. So we want to make sure that you like and share on Facebook Live, and halfway through we will draw some names and we'll announce them. And then something else that's going on in the area is we have our local Sew Expo in Puyallup at the fairground. And so that started today and goes through Sunday. So we are going to get started, and I'm going to let Linda talk about some of these amazing notions we've brought in.
Good morning. It's so nice to have you joining us now. The first item I'll show you is our double-sided bobbin box that has space for 50 bobbins. And it's always handy to have an extra one since we have so many colors of threads that we carry. I carry an extra box of this for my Sashiko threads, which is a different weight. It's 30 weight, and I'll be telling you more about that later on. The next item I would like to show you is this handy little stubby straight edge screwdriver that we brought in because we felt it was a very practical item to have, especially at 10 o'clock at night when the store is closed and you have a project you need fixing. The next one is called That Purple Thing, and we brought this in before, but we felt it was really an excellent item to have on hand. It's kind of like cheater glasses. You can't have one pair, you have to have one in each room, because this one will go in your drawer, and when you go looking for it, it won't be there. So spread them out, then they'll always be available. This tool is a flexible plastic. It can be used as a pusher for your sewing, and it pushes in corners of pockets, cuffs, collars. It also has a slot in the purple thing that you can thread fine elastic or ribbon through to run through casings. That slot is also handy for putting a ribbon through, tying it around your neck, and wearing it wherever you go. People will surely come to you and make your acquaintance. The next item we have is the 5-inch Easy Snip OESD stainless steel clippers. They're very fine point, very sharp serrated edge, and it squeezes rather than putting your fingers into those scissor holes. And it works great for keeping those ends sharp, going underneath the foot of your sewing machine to clip threads for sewing machine and embroidery machine. And I think Naomi has something for you.
And now I want to talk about batting real quick. So we have this little Know Your Batting book, and this is by Krista Mosier, and she is one of our local quilters, artists, pattern makers. She's just amazing and super nice person. Now she created this book to kind of educate us on battings and all the different options out there. So if you glance down here at the table, you'll see right here I have several different types. Now I thought it would be fun to go through all of my scraps and kind of see how they all look and compare. Now I know on Facebook Live you can't really touch them and feel them, but it's just amazing the different thicknesses and the different looks. I know some of us still love that real thick polyester batting that's out there. But then other people have switched over to your Hobbs 80/20 or warm and white. Or if you're a hot person, and I mean, I don't just mean you're attractive, but you're warm-blooded, bamboo is a great option for batting because it breathes. Now, in this little book, she has put together lots of great information on like a best use chart. So like what batting should you use on a t-shirt quilt or making a duffel bag. She breaks it down into different types of batting and all this great information. She even has sections where she found the manufacturer and all the different sizes of packages that it comes in. So a lot of great information, and I'll just throw it out there. She even has tips and tricks in here if you are someone who likes to wash your batting. I know some people are probably going, I would never wash my batting. That's so weird. But you know, sometimes it's nice to pre-wash batting if it's a wool batting. Batting does shrink a little bit, 3 to 5%, but honestly, I don't like to pre-wash my batting, but you know, it has a lot of great information in here. And since we're talking about batting, I thought I would talk to you about the heating press batting together tape. And if you notice, this tape is more narrow than some of the other tapes they have out there on the market. I find that this works just as well as the wider, if not better, because you don't need as much. It's going to hold together. And what you do is you line up your batting, you put that right down the seam. Now this has two sides. One is very smooth and silky, and the other side is rough. And the rough side is the glue side. So that's the side you put down, and I cover it with like a Teflon sheet, and I iron it, and then it keeps the batting together so it won't come apart. And it's a great way to use up some of that scrap batting. Maybe you send your quilts off to a long arm quilter and you have those edge pieces that you want to use up. So this is when I use the batting tape. It just creates a nice smooth surface. I sometimes like to zigzag, but honestly, the taping is great because like I said, it's a smooth surface and it really allows to just make everything easier for you to stitch on. And I'm going to let Donna jump in and start talking about our first amazing project.
Hi there. Well, Donna is one of our other educators that Naomi did last month. I'm Linda again. And the first project I want to talk to you about is, it's our Elio t-shirt, and it comes in, I'm sorry, I have to do this. It comes in 2 different cup sizes, ranging from 0 to 30, so everybody can find a size that fits them. The pattern tells you that it uses 50% stretch each way. That's across the fabric and lengthwise. And this is the shirt that I did. I did a long sleeve version. It's a faux wrap and very easy fit. We used 3 different types of elastic. The one is the knit elastic along the neckline. We used the clear stretch vinyl to stabilize the side seams. And we used a fold over elastic for the bottom hem application. And Naomi made hers with a short sleeve application.
Okay. So this is my version of the shirt. Yes, the pattern includes 3 sleeve lengths. You have a long, a medium, and then a short. And so I went with the short, and mine is a size 12, and I ended up using a blue fold-over elastic at the bottom because I wanted to blend in, and I like to wear an undershirt under my shirt, so I have my undershirt just because, you know, a little peekaboo. So it's like keeping the ladies contained. And so with this, I really love the fit of it. It's a 50% cotton and a 50% spandex I use. I got it online from Knit Express, and this came together very easy, and I really love the fit of it. Okay. Do you have anything else you'd like to say about the shirt?
No, I think that's about it.
recommendation about the shirt is, since I've never used this material before, I did not do it on my serger, so I used my sewing machine. And I went on my sewing machine and I stitched out a bunch of different stitch options to kind of play around to see which stitch would look great on this type of fabric. So I recommend doing that. You know, I do the stitches, I write down the number so I can go back and find it. Now, the next item I want to talk about is probably my favorite item today that we are talking about. It is the Patchwork duffel bag. And this is by Knot and Thread. And it is my Harry Potter duffel bag. I'm a big Harry Potter nerd, and so I had some fabric from a different project, and you'll see here, you can see the Gryffindor fabric, and I quilted it with this kind of swirl and this lightning bolt to stay in the theme of Harry Potter. I also use the Annie's by Annie strapping. And something to know with this strapping is in this 6-yard package, you can get both the handles here and you can get the long handle. Now we also have some cute hardware we brought in. Right here, you can kind of see here and here. And then we have a 2-way zipper on this duffel bag. And we have this in a white and a black. Now something I want to show you is when you flip it inside out, you can see they finish all their edging with binding. So it's nice and clean. You don't have any raw edges. My little tip for doing the binding, and I know there's a bunch of different ways you can do it, but the way they have you do it in the book is you sew your side piece onto the body of your fabric, and then you take your binding and you sew it around, and then you flip it, and then you sew it again. So the way I do it is I take my side panel, I sew my binding onto my side panel first on one side. Then I attach that whole unit, and then I flip it over and sew that. And don't hate me, I did do hand stitching to attach my binding. But I found that it's just easier for me to maneuver the corners when it's flat than trying to wrangle the whole duffel bag. Another thing I like to do is sometimes when you make bags, the sides will kind of curl in. So what I like to do, and you'll see it more on this side, see how the sides here kind of, they curl in and they don't look as crisp and clean. So what I did on this side was I take Wonder Clips and I clip all the way around it. I clip it like crazy. And then I spray it with either water or Best Press. I let it dry overnight, and then I unclip it, and it helps just pop out that seam so it doesn't sink in. This bag has 2 great side pockets on the side, and you use Annie Soft and Stable between your outer fabric and your lining fabric. And in the pattern, it does have directions on, if you have like directional fabric like I did, on how you need to cut it, sew it together, and then you sandwich your outer fabric, your Annie Soft and Stable, your lining, and you quilt it, and then you cut all your pieces out. So I'm going to let Linda talk more in depth about this duffel bag also.
I did my back a little bit different than Naomi in that I used jelly roll strips that I had left over from the throw I did in November. I used the black strapping as opposed to the white, and mine stayed fairly crisp on the edges, as after I sewed my strips, I sandwiched my fabric with the soft and stable, and I did my Sashiko stitching to quilt it together. Then I coated the piece while it was still flat, the main body portion as well as the pockets, with OdiCoat, which is another product we're going to show you today. And that gave it a stiffer effect than just the soft fabric. I lined my duffel bag with the same backing I used on those throws. It's a large African Ghana print. It's cotton fabric, and it made a very nice lining. So that's my duffel bag. The next project we have is the on-the-go luggage tag. We brought in just in time for spring and summer travel. It has 5 designs, embroidery designs, and the one cut out that they show plain without embroidery. We also brought in the black sparkle vinyl to do that with. The pattern calls for a clear vinyl from OESD to do the back portion. The pattern has you attach your sticky adhesive to your hoop, and the first step, when you put it in the machine, it stitches out the placement for this particular design. It's all in the hoop. One of the things that it does do, on the picture it shows a straight strap in the top. However, the pattern stitches out a circle in the center of this tag so that there's a placement for you to use a 4-inch OESD 4mm punch for that tag, which I found different elastics and pleather to make an attachment for your luggage, and I put this little clip on the top. This is the clear in the back. The designs are so much world, so little time, and they give color suggestions in the embroidery. However, you can use whatever color design you'd like. The other designs that we have are Travel is My Therapy. This is just vinyl that I had at home, and it says, go where you feel the most alive. And again, you can see the clear vinyl on the back where I was able to slip my mailing tag that has my information. And this one was a piece of rose gold cork that I had at home that I used, and it says, so let's start the journey. Again, those were colors that I chose rather than the ones that they suggested. This tag, I used a stretch elastic and put a clip to attach it to my luggage. The final design is a border design, so that, and it leaves a space where you can embroider your initial, or perhaps a little airplane or a boat, whatever you want that's applicable to your travel. So that's our on-the-go luggage tag.
So with the on-the-go luggage tag, like she said, you have several design options. I will say my favorite is the blank one, because then you can create your own. You know, maybe you have some little kids in your life and you want to make something that's more juvenile. You can really pick and choose what you want with that. And so for one of my demos today, I want to talk about how to do the luggage tag. So I kind of came prepared like they do in cooking shows. So if you look at the table here, you'll notice I have 3 different hoops. Now, the first step, you are going to, I'll flip it over, you're going to put your stabilizer in, and you use a tearaway stabilizer. Then you're going to hoop it on your machine. It's going to do a placement stitch. Then you will place your vinyl, your cork, your home deck fabric down, whichever fabric you want to use. You're going to stick it down. Sometimes I like to use a little bit of 505 spray or tape to kind of secure it down. And then you'll put it on the machine. It's going to stitch that down. So we'll do a tack down stitch with the little circle there. And then the next step is the design. So now it's going to stitch your design for you. And for easy live, I just did a single color, but it does the color there, the design. Now the next step after that is, after it's done the design, you're going to take the frame, the hoop off the frame, and you're going to flip it over, and you want to tape your vinyl, your second piece of vinyl, to the back. And then you'll flip it, load it on the machine, and it's going to do another tack down stitch. So we're going to go over to the machine right now, and we are going to do those steps. So follow me. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we got to have our tape. So I've got some scraps of tape ready. Now, if you'll see here, I have my hoop with the design done, but we need to do the back. So we are going to use our second piece of sparkle vinyl. I'm going to flip it over, and we're just going to lay it on top. Now, the vinyl we brought in those tubes, if you're very aware of how you cut it, you could get 4 luggage tags out of it. So you can get quite a bit with one of those rolls. So I've taped it now. I'm going to flip it, and then I'm going to load it onto the machine. So then all I have to do is hit the go button. Okay. Now, the clear vinyl we're going to use is a 20 gauge clear vinyl. And I'll show you how to do that in the next step. So enjoy this little demo right here. You know, I know a lot of us are guilty of, when we embroider, we sit there and we watch it. You know, we've been told you should get up and you should do something else, but sometimes you just kind of, you get in this daze, and so it's fun to watch. Okay, so now I'm going to unload, and now you'll see it did the little stitch out, and I am going to still this tape back. Now with the clear vinyl, they recommend that you put it covering the whole tack down stitch. Now, you don't have to worry about it being stitched shut, because this top edge right here, they're not going to do a stitch line. So that's how you insert your info. Some people I've seen, they like to move the vinyl down to this point, and then they have a bigger opening. Now, I think it would be cute if you did it this way. Before you attach it here, take your vinyl and put some binding right here, and then put it here, and then it'll give it a nice little accent, and it'll look really nice. But for today, I'm just going to cover it up and tape it down. Okay, make sure it's secure. And push it. Oh, it's scooted. There we go. Nothing like live, right? Okay, then I just have to hit go, and it's going to start doing the next tack down. Ooh, it's shifting. And my thread, I was just telling Linda, I said, you know, if anything's gonna happen, it's gonna be when I'm doing my demo. So my thread came undone, so I'm going to fix that real quick. Yes. pull that vinyl off for me if you can? Okay, so I'm going to thread this. Now I'd like to know if you have a luminaire, put in comments that you have one. Tell me how much you love your luminaire. I got an XP3 in October and I just love this machine. Thank you, my dear. Okay. So now I've got some more tape over here. So I'm really going to secure it now. It doesn't hurt to put more tape on because worst case scenario, you just have to pull it off, more tape off when you're done. Okay, now it's on there. Okay, so now I'm going to back up my design. There we go. And then you say, listen up, you're gonna do this. See, this is the game. I was telling Linda, I said, you know, I should probably put different thread in. But you know what, now it just broke the thread, so I can easily. This is the lesson on how to thread your machine. There we go. And go. I can tell you this much. For my next demo, I will be using a different thread. So, last time. You're like, oh my gosh, Naomi, throw that thread out, right? And I'm just going to back it up a few stitches. See? Okay. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to show you how to just put new thread on a different, and I'm going to do what what's her name does, Eleanor Burns, stripping. I'm just going to throw it to the side, no one cares, and we're going to move on to some different thread because I need it to work. I need it to behave, right? Okay. So I'm just going to thread this machine. Go down. The great thing is this machine is so easy to thread. Now it's going to be a different color, but that's okay. Okay. Make sure my tail's long enough and not in the way. So something about scissor tail designs is they have really stepped it up with their instructions. They have great pictures, great step-by-step on how to do, and yeah, they've really made it amazingly easy to complete their projects as long as the thread doesn't break. So if you're at home and you're like, oh my gosh, that always happens to me, I'm in the same boat apparently, because apparently right now at this moment in time, this machine is like, Naomi, you are not allowed to finish this project. And you know, it's funny because it's like, I have another demo after this, and look, it just came unthreaded. So it's like, I want it to work. So what I'm gonna have us do is I'm going to troubleshoot a little bit, and I'm going to pass it over to Linda back over, and she's gonna talk about the next project just for a few minutes, and then we'll come back to this, okay?
Okay. Well, the next thing we were going to do is our Make It Mini book that we brought in for you. It's a lovely book. It has great pictures. It shows you some of the embroidery designs that you can use. We each did 3 of the projects that are in the book. When we get together to decide what we're going to show you, we look at different books and patterns and whatnot and agree on what we're going to do. Naomi decided that she really liked this Make It Mini that is for piecing fabric and hand embroidery. And I thought it looked just super. Now, I haven't done hand quilting for over 30 years, so this was a challenge for me, kind of starting all over again. I did my embroidery with 3 different weights of pearl cotton, and when I saw the pattern, I immediately envisioned a Asian jardiniere print, and I happened to have some blue and white at home, which worked out just perfectly. It includes French knots, daisy stitch, stem stitch, and then I tacked mine around with little cross stitches to hold my batting in place. I used 880 Hellon to put in this to give it a little bit of poof. It would be cute for a wall hanging. And then when Naomi pulled hers out, this is called Vintage Bouquet, the design. She pulled hers out, and I looked at it and I said, that's machine embroidery. She says, I know. I didn't want to hand embroider. So what I found out is the books are basically patterns, but you can use artistic license in how you put these things together. Her fabric in her jardiniere is mimicked by her fabric that she used in the design for her flowers. And it turned out just absolutely darling. The next one is Naomi's. It's called Blooming Heart. Closer so you can see. And rather than do hand embroidery, she fussy cut many of the floral prints on her wall hanging. The next one is called Fresh Start, and it is flying geese pattern, which I use my Sashiko machine to quilt across the flying geese. I did a little tiny bit of stitch in the ditch just to keep this placement correct. On my embroidery, I found a transfer pencil from, I believe it's called Aunt Martha's company. And in transferring, there's a few extra little daisy stitches in here, a couple of extra leaves, because when I tried to wash it out, it didn't completely come out. I don't know whether it was because the fabric was a white on white or if it was the soap I was using, but it gives it kind of what I call a rose glow. And with the extra stitches, it kind of disguises that a little bit. Now you'll notice that I did hundreds of French knots in these flowers. They take a little bit of time, but it gives a wonderful effect. I also used a variegated pearl cotton that shades the flowers and gives it a more natural look. And I bound it with a cute little stripe fabric. Just give it a little extra pizzazz. So that's a fresh start wall hanging. These things don't always want to cooperate. The next one that we did, Naomi did the Sweet Orchard. And what's cute about this, rather than doing a peach design, she chose to use yellow fabrics that give it a lemon look. Now, this particular one says, the embroidery says "so sweet" at the bottom, and I pointed out to her, she says, oh, I just didn't want to do it. She used an overall stitch with her long arm that's lemon and lemon leaves that ties in nicely with the design. The last one is, design was called Walking on Sunshine, and I chose to do it up so that it could be used as a pillow. I put a zipper in the back of the pillow, and I also made a sleeve across the top to insert a very thin rod so that my daughter can use it either as a pillow or take the pillow form out and use it as a wall hang. I used my Sashiko machine to quilt the green with white thread and the white areas with a lime green thread so it coordinates. I used the leaf pattern with the 3 different kinds of pearl cotton for texture. And some of my leaves turned out beautifully, and some of my leaves are, as in nature, beginning to turn a little bit. It was a really fun project to do. And you'll notice, if you noticed, my color green on the back is slightly different than my green on the front. Well, I went to the fabric store without my swatch, and they had 3 different colorways of this same patterned fabric. I looked at them and I thought, oh, I know that's the one. And as you can see, I was wrong. So don't forget to take your color swatch to the fabric store when you're adding on to your patterns that you're in the midst of. So that's our representation of the Make It Mini book. And by the way, this one you might want, if you're interested, you might want to get it quickly because it is published by Martingale Press, which we have found has decided to go out of publication. So get it now while it's available. And now Naomi's going to talk to you a little bit more.
So sorry about that. You know, nothing like live. Okay, so I've changed the needle. I've done some things, still not working, so I've got my tech crew on it over there. But I was able to get it to finish stitching. And so once it's done stitching, you will pop it out of the hoop. The hoop's very tight. There we go. And you are going to trim around the edge. So, sorry, this probably isn't a great view, but what you're just gonna do is you're just gonna trim right along the edge. If I was at home, I'd probably use my rotary blade. Just go around. I've got some threads I'll clean up when I'm done. But other than that, okay, so now this is the fun part. This is where you go on the trip. No, I'm joking. This is where you get to use that hole punch. And so if you take a look down here at the table, I'll put it right here, you have your little hole right here. You're going to line this up with that hole, and you want to apply pressure, slow motion. You don't want to push quickly, so you just kind of, and then it cuts the hole just like that. These OESD hole punch is great. You have the 3 sizes, super easy to just pop one of these out. You unscrew here and put the new size on. Great little handy tool. And like Linda says, then you just need to put your info in the back and then put your elastic through, and then you're ready to go on that trip. So I'm going to do a giveaway. So let's do some giveaways, okay? Let's see, do we have any names for giveaways?
I've got Bailey Hindmark.
Okay, so I'm gonna get those, Linda's bringing me those names. Now, if you're the winner of the giveaway, you want to make sure to send us a message, and we will send it to whichever quality is your store. So the first one is Bailey Hindmark, Hindmorch. So Bailey, you will win the little mini mosaic quilts. This is a great little pattern. I've actually made this one. The next one is going to go to Joanne Byron's Nun. And you are going to get this little pack of fat quarter bundle. So please make sure to go on there and send us a message. Let us know, say, hey, I won the prize today, and let us know which store you'd like it sent to. And I'm going to let Linda talk about the next book, and then she's going to do a fun demo.
Okay, it's the next book we brought in is Color Block Quilt Making. The book features solid color fabrics. However, you can certainly take artistic license and use whatever fabric or print you choose. We did a combination of the different quilts, and I'm going to show you over here where we started. Naomi did the river woods, and I don't know if you can see here, they look like wall hangings. She didn't attach hers to a frame yet. However, she said she's going to probably turn them into a wall hanging. She did this particular design with Moda fabrics. So if you love this color combination, you can go and seek those out. She did her quilting in an overall kind of a modern linear design that complements the circular design of the quilt. And then if we'll go down here, we're going to show you more riverwood ideas. I don't do wall hangings very often. The daughter said no more wall hangings. So this is my rendition of riverwoods. As you'll notice, I did 4 of the units, the 2 main units, and put them together. And then I used a photocopy machine, and I copied the book so that I could lay this out and juxtaposition these designs to get a look that I liked. And I decided I wanted to invert these panels to give it a more exciting look. I also quilted my quilt, or my throw, with my Sashiko sewing machine by Baby Lock, and that I will be showing you in a little bit. These are all 5mm stitches. They replicate hand quilting, and that's the main reason why I got the machine. You can see on the back that the stitches are very similar to a regular sewing machine stitch. And it worked up very, very well. It looks very nice, and I hope my grandson will be happy with his quilt. The next quilt that we did, or I did, is called Desert Song. And this particular quilt, I could have made it a little bit bigger, but we're trying to size down so we can fit here for our presentations. I made this one for my grandson. He likes to wear his quilts around his neck, kind of like a shawl. So this will be perfect for him. I had my long arm quilter do the quilting in kind of a wave design. And then there's the back. The label that I put on it was from a book that we brought in November of transfer labels. And I think it turned out truly one of a kind, as the label states. The next one we did, this one is Naomi's quilt, and I'll let her talk to you about it.
So this one is called Honey, and of course I would pick the quilt in the book that has paper piecing, the only pattern that I know of. And so I will say, with that in mind, I love this book because of all the negative space. You can really get creative with the quilting. It's a little more simple piecing, and so with this you can explore and play with your quilting. This was the inspiration right here from the book. I used two colors that I love, and on the back, if you know me, you know I love my Minky, and so I have this gray Minky, and I use the same kind of hexagon design to kind of mimic the design itself. And with Minky, just so that you know I say it, I still use a batting in the middle. I use usually like a Warm and Natural or a Hobbs 80/20 because I find that it helps with the stretch of the Minky and helps stabilize it. And I use a Shannon 90-inch Minky, which has a two-way stretch. So I do try to avoid Minky or Cuddle that is a four-way stretch. It's a lot more work. And so two-way stretch is the way to go. Now, Day Trip, I don't know if she talked about Day Trip yet. Okay, so we have Day Trip, and with Day Trip, you have all kind of rectangles and squares. You have one angle right here, and I have this thing where every year I like to make a quilt that's a Valentine's quilt. So this is kind of my Valentine's quilt for this year, and I quilted it with this kind of flower blossom design. And then you can really see it on the Minky. And I did the pink Minky on the back. And it just pops and looks great. I love to put Minky or flannel on the back of my quilts because I find that they're cuddly and they get used more in my house if they have a soft backing on it. So with this book, I really like to, explore with try out new designs with my quilting, whether you're doing it on a long arm or edge-to-edge quilting machine. And I'm going to let Linda do her demo right now. But first she wants to talk about OdiCoat, actually.
Well, since our demonstrations have kind of been twisted up a little bit, we're a little disjointed, but I want to make sure you find out about all the great products we brought you. One of them being the OdiCoat that I mentioned when I showed you my duffel bag. OdiCoat is a water-resistant gel type product that you spread on your cotton fabrics or home deck fabrics to give them that water resistancy. OdiCoat suggests using it on picnic tables, on placemats, on baby bibs. A lot of different suggestions came into us as we were demonstrating this. One of the women said, make a tray or a sheet to go under the high chair, so when the baby spills their peaches on your beige carpet, you can wipe it up easily and it won't ruin the carpet. OdiCoat very graciously gives everyone their own OdiCoat credit card, I call. Unfortunately, there's no monetary value to this, but this aids you in spreading this product on your fabric. After you've used it a few times, it takes a while to get the cap off. Someone told me after the fact that before you start using it, take a little bit of petroleum jelly and put it around the edges of the jar, so that then when you put the spill it off and it's on here, it makes it easier to get that cap off. So I'm going to show you. It looks similar to a product we used to use called Mod Podge. It looks opaque, white, but it's clear when it goes on. And I just put a little bit on the fabric. See, that's why you need that petroleum jelly, because it gets all over the place. You take the credit card and spread it on your fabric. You'll see a glisten to it when you first put it on, so you can see where you're spreading it. And I like to go back and forth numerous times to make sure I get it into the weave of the fabric. On my demonstrations in the stores, I did some on a home deck fabric, which you all know has a larger weave, and it takes a little more to soak up this product. It takes a little longer to dry. Now, this particular application on quilting fabric takes about 15 minutes to dry for one coat. On the home deck, I found that it took 30 to 45 minutes to dry, and it makes it a little stiffer. You can see here, there's a little sheen to the fabric where I put the first coat on, and it sounds, I don't know if this picks up the sound, but it sounds kind of like raincoat material. I was first introduced to OdiCoat by Donna Alexander, one of our educators. Donna made a full-length raincoat using cotton quilting fabric. She cut out her pattern pieces first, and then she applied the OdiCoat to it, and it turned out absolutely beautiful. So there's many different applications for this product. It's absolutely wonderful. For our beautiful purses that we make here at So Fun, that we go out in the rain in Seattle and they get kind of damp. So OdiCoat makes that an impossibility for the purse. It's going to stay dry. So I suggest you get yourself some OdiCoat and keep making those purses. Now I'm going to go over and demonstrate two things. The first being that stretch elastic, fold over elastic for your shirt. As you can see from the camera, this is the wrong side, the matte finish. The right side is a shiny finish. There's a slight line down the center of that elastic. And that's what you line the hem of your shirt up with. The other product that we brought in that is just a wonder is the Roxanne glue stick. This is perfect for this application because if you try to apply this without the glue, it's going to go all over the place. So I apply a small amount of the glue on one side of that line, and then I place the hem of my shirt right along that line. It's a one-on-one application, which means you're not stretching the fabric of the shirt and you're not stretching the elastic. So then I'm going to use the lightning stitch zigzag on my Brother machine. And in this case, I'm going to use the push button on the machine. Oh, nope. First, I'm going to rethread the machine. This is live TV, and this is what happens. So we're going to, this is the Brother 5200 that I'm using. And the threading button that's, oh Lord. See if I can get this to work right. Okay, come on. This is not our day for thread, is it? Okay, it's not going to cooperate. I'll just have to manually thread this. Oh, now I'm see what I did wrong. Okay, up, put the thread to the back and down, and let's stitch that lightning stitch. And cut it. And then you don't use the glue on the front application. You simply flip that elastic over, slip it under the presser foot and lower it. And stitch away close to the edge of the elastic. And that gives a very nice finish to your shirt. You'll see on this one, where I used white on my sample, it stretches with the fabric of your shirt very nicely. So you don't have to have that extra hem bulge. The other thing I failed to tell you on my shirt, the application for this that I used, when I started, I cut the elastic with my rotary cutter and made a very straight edge. I put a layer of fray check along the edge to keep it from fraying, and then I started my application on the back side. Came around to the joining side, stopped about 2 inches away, made sure that my elastic would butt up to the other side, and cut it very straight, and put another application of fray check on it, and then finished my stitching. And the gals at the stores looked at my shirt, and we tried to find where that elastic was joined, and they could not find it. So it really was smooth. So when you're wearing it tucked into your slacks or your skirt, you don't see any kind of a bulge there. So that was the elastic. The next thing I'm going to talk to you about is our Baby Lock Sashiko machine. I make many of my quilts, throws, bed runners, table runners, and whatnot, quilting them with my baby lock. A little history about Sashiko. Sashiko was originally used as a utilitarian stitch to create clothing, outdoor clothing for the folks in Japan, the fishermen and the firemen and the farm workers. The firemen's jackets that they would create using wadding, or as they call it, or batting as we call it, stitched together with the basic straight Sashiko stitch, and the firemen soaked their jackets in water, and it helped keep them safe while they were fighting fires. The fishermen needed heavy clothing when they were out doing their fishing in the weather that would come up unexpectedly. Now, when they would tear a jacket, rather than making a new one, they'd simply take a swatch of fabric, place it on the jacket, and do the utilitarian stitch to quilt it to that particular jacket. And the oldest, I've got this book, I've got many books on Sashiko that are primarily about hand stitching, but it was a wonderful resource guide as far as explaining what the history of Sashiko is. And that is that the oldest pieces of clothing that they could find were created in about the 1600s. This was done, as I said, primarily for utilitarian uses for about 200 years, and ended in the 1800s with the Edo dynasty. And then somewhere along the line, someone's wife probably decided that she wanted to do something fancy with her Sashiko. Again, I think I told you Sashiko translates to little stab, and thus the up and down of the stitching. So they started using designs on clothing and household items. I use this particular design, which is called the Blue Wave, on my jacket that I'm wearing. The pattern I used is called Tremont. We brought it in about a year ago, and I stitched off my seam allowance so I knew where my design should begin and end. I used a template like this and twisted and turned to get it to fit the design of the jacket. I also put a little bit back here on the slits, just for interest. You can get these stencils, some in the fabric stores, some you have to get online. These are for hand Sashiko designs, and the best application for this is a Soline chalk pencil that we can order for you at the store. Because it's like a mechanical pencil, it goes down through these grooves with the chalk, but there's a metal ring around the outside of the chalk that protects it so it doesn't break it off constantly. Sashiko was created in about 2009 by a couple. The family is called Sakuma, that's their surname. The father and son worked for the Suzuki Mechanical Company. The mother was a prominent Sashiko stitcher in Japan, and unfortunately the sweet lady's hands started to become arthritic, and she was no longer able to do her beloved hand stitching. So son and father, being engineer mechanics, created the Sashiko machine for her, to which they joined with Baby Lock, and Baby Lock makes the Sashiko machine for us now. So we can do it by machine rather than doing the hours work of laborious hand stitching. Same effect. It has multiple stitch lengths and spacings from 2 millimeter to 5 millimeter and everything in between those. The machine, I jokingly say, is a one-stitch wonder because it only does one stitch. The difference is that you as a creator can make many different designs, replicating some of the handwork or coming up with your own designs. The top part is simply for winding your bobbin. The stitching is all done from the bobbin thread. And it's down here. Let's see, I took the case out so I could show you. This is the bobbin case. This is the top and the bottom. There's two, I don't know how close you can get, but there's two little nubs here that the thread feeds through.
We have a question. Can you use a walking foot on this machine?
No, it does not have a walking foot. It has the feed dogs, and the machine actually, the feed dogs do the, and the stitching do the actual action. So you don't need a walking foot. The bobbin is a class 15, which is the same one that I use in my Brother sewing machine. When you're loading your bobbin, the thread goes away from you. Insert it into the bobbin case. There's a latch that you hold, and that keeps that bobbin in place so that you can bring the thread down. There's a notch that you pull it into. Across, it latches, and then you have to feed this thread through those two pegs. I think you can see this. Again, live TV. And we're not taking breaks, we're just going straight through, so you're going to see all my fails and successes. So I will show you how this goes in. Again, with the brushes towards the top, holding that latch, and you insert the bobbin, and it gets kind of a little snap in there. And I like to tuck that thread in so it doesn't get caught in the case. Then you simply push the button. The needle brings up the thread. There is only one needle for this particular machine. It has a kind of hook in it. There's a looper up here that helps hold it in place while it's making its stitches. You bring the thread out over to the side and snap it off. There's a razor in there, and this keeps the tension on the thread. There's only one thread that you use for this. It's from the bobbin. And first I want to show you this particular sample I'm doing is using a couple of long arm acrylic templates. I have two here. I have one from Westerly and one from HQ. And that's these. This is the Westerly. This is an HQ. I used it for my designs. Let's see, where'd my chalk go? And this is how I did it. Just chalk that down there. And it goes on easily. The chalk can be removed if there's still any residue left when you're through with all your stitching by just using a damp cloth, and it will wipe off. And I'll do one with this template. Now you can use many different kinds of templates. The one that I showed you I used for my jacket. You can use straight edge rulers. So I've drawn two. I'm going to do a 5.5, meaning 5 millimeter stitch and 5mm spacing on this particular line. Put the foot down. It makes a different noise than the regular domestic machine. And as I told the ladies, I use these chalk lines as a suggestion on the free motion type of quilting, because I don't always hit the line. So there's the 5mm stitch and 5mm spacing. Now I'm going to go to the complete opposite with a 2mm stitch and 2mm spacing, and you'll see that it's very small. I like to use the smaller stitch length and separation on the circular designs that I do, because it goes in smoothly, where the longer stitch doesn't manipulate as easily. You can hear it. I call my machine Thrasher because I thought it sounded like it must be a thrashing machine when I first plugged it in and tried it out. Pull it over, and I should have caught it down in the edge. Got a little excited there. That's the 2mm space and 2mm stitch. So you can see the difference. And then there's different spaces in between, sizes in between these two stitches, as you can see on this particular sample. It's got several different stitch lengths. Now, when I talked about templates, I told you I use many different types of templates to create the designs. This is a sampler I did. I didn't finish it with binding because I wanted to show the ladies the type of batting I used in this that will probably be a table runner. It's the Pellon 880. It's thin. It's the type of batting that will not, you can put a glass on it, and it's not so thick that it'll tip over a wine glass or something. At any rate, I use the clamshell template that people use for quilting. I did the main design and then I dropped it down to create the secondary arc. This particular design was simply with a straight edge ruler. I chalked off a square, did point to point with my chalk pencil, and then did my gradiating lines out on each quadrant. This is the one that I just demonstrated. You take those templates and flip them back and forth to get a pleasing design. This particular one, I used the Westerly circular templates for the long arm and did my circles with a smaller stitch, and then I used a straight edge ruler to do the lines after that. This one is also Westerly Hearts template. I used a smaller stitch on the smaller hearts, got it a little bigger as I went, and then finally ended up with the 5, 5 on the outer heart because it could take that movement. This particular one is a Greek key that I found at the local fabric store, and it makes a very, very lovely design. It would be a beautiful border for all the way around one of your quilts. Many different uses for these templates and a lot of different methods of chalking. So that's the basics on the Sashiko machine by Baby Lock, and we have them in some of the stores. Call ahead to see if they have one available. You can do a hands-on demonstration. When we do Sew Fun each month, on my particular months, I usually bring items that are done with Sashiko, and I will be continuing to bring my machine with me so you can see it in live action. So, thank you very much. Naomi?
That's great. I love the Sashiko quilting. I love the look it gives you. So many great options for your quilting. Some people were asking that if we could post some pictures on the Facebook, so maybe we'll take some pictures of these.
Sure.
And we'll get them on the Facebook Quality Sewing and Vacuum Facebook page so that you can see up close the stitching and how they look. So I'm going to take you back over to the embroidery machine. We're going to cross our fingers, right? Come on, work for me. Because the next demo I really want to do is in the hoop edge-to-edge quilting. I'm going to show you kind of how to get it set up, how to get going. Once you get going, it's just continuing on. So like I said, let's cross our fingers. So the first thing we're going to do is we are going to go onto our machine, and I'm going to be using a built-in design. So I'm going to click on right here my quilting, and number 4 has my edge-to-edge designs. So I'm going to select a design, and because I want it to kind of stitch quickly, I'm going to pick, you know, a fairly easy one. So I'll do number 8. Then the next step is you will hit set. So at this point, it's going to ask you the size of your quilt top. Now, something to know is your quilt top should be smaller than your backing and your batting. So if we go over here and look at the table, you'll see right here, I have it laid out. I just used some fabric. So I've got my quilt top, or my table runner, and then I've got my batting, and then for fun, I thought I should use Minky for the back. And so what I do is I make my sandwich. I do spray a little bit of 505 spray on it to kind of stick it down. Some people like to baste around the edges, and you can do that if you want to before you do your quilting. And then I have my magnetic hoop. So we are going to hoop this up. So before you do this, make sure you take your measurements. I'm going to slide this under, and you want to place this so your quilt top is, you know, kind of away from the edges a little. And if for some reason you can't get the marking to line up just right, you can always re-hoop it. So I'm just going to take my magnetic hoops, or my magnetic magnets, slide them on, and honestly, it doesn't really matter. I've seen people put these on both ways, this way and this way. And so you're just going to make sure they're on and nice and secure. Now, I'm going to bring it over to the machine. And I'm just going to load it so I can have it already ready to go. Find my side. Just going to slide this under. Very important, you don't want anything catching. And you might need to move your hoop. There we go. When I slide my hoop in, I always support this because I don't want this to scooch. And then I will kind of, once I get that in, I'll kind of get this all situated. I like to roll it and just kind of get it out of the way. Make sure nothing is underneath it on the back, and it's all smooth. Okay, so what you're going to do, and actually now I notice this, I hooped it wrong, but I'm going to go over this part first, then I'll re-hoop it. So it's going to have you put in your dimensions. So I am going to see how that's blue. I'm going to type in the size. Mine's 18 and a half, and then you hit set, and then I'll have my other side, and that one is 38 and a half, and then set. Okay, so now it is going to put in your sizes. It's going to tell you how many pieces, how many repeats per row. So two repeats per and 3 rows. So here it has your hoop size. So you are going to scan through it until you find the size of hoop you're using. So I'm using the 10 by 10 hoop. Something to be aware of is if you watch right here, as I move the hoop size, it's going to change the stitch size. So here's a 9.5 by 14, which is the largest hoop. So depending on the density of your quilting you want it to be, you might want to adjust which hoop you're using. So I'm using the 10 by 10. And then also right here, if you click on select, it is going to give you 4 layout options. Now some designs you'll notice it more. This one will just do the same design, same location on each repeat. This one is going to flip it back to back. This one is going to do another option of flipping the design, and then this one. So, I mean, sometimes you don't want it to look too like this is a row, so it's nice that you can mix it up. So I'm gonna leave it as this one, because then it's kind of just alternates it. And then I click OK. Okay, and then you're going to click next. And right here, it's going to kind of show you a layout. It's going to work from the left to the right. And then when you're done with that row from left to right, you're going to go back to the row below it and then work. So you're going to work your way down. Another thing you should know right here, there's a single stitch and a triple stitch. So if you just want a simple, quick stitch out, you want to do that single stitch. The triple stitch is going to take a lot longer. It's going to give a more dense stitch. It can look nice, but it needs to be for the appropriate design that you want to, you know, make it look nice. So I have my single stitch. Then you click, if you want to, you can adjust the color. And you can say, you know, I want to be able to see it better. So maybe I'm using a pink thread. You don't have to use a pink thread. So then you click OK, and then you'll click memory. Now it's going to save to the machine. You're going to click OK. And if you notice here, it saves it, and it also saves it to the size. So over the design, it says 18.5 by 38.5. So if you ever make another quilt this size again, you can just click on this one and use this design again if that's what you want to do. So then you click the design, and it's going to load all of your designs. Now it will always give you a single design if you ever need to stitch just a single section of it, but usually you want to click the first one, and it says 20. So because you have 20 hoopings for this design. So you click on that, then you click set. And then you just wait for a minute. Okay, so now I'm going to rehoop it. So we're going to go back over to the table. I just put this in the wrong corner. So these magnetic hoops are so amazing and strong. I know there's a couple different ones out there, but this I think is probably my favorite. So I just had my hoop turned the wrong way. So I'm gonna get that. Okay, so we'll see if I have to adjust it, but let's just see how it works. I'll show you how you can adjust it once it's on the machine, if need be. Okay. Okay, so now it's telling me, it's showing me a picture. The great thing, it's going to walk you through. So it's going to want you to do the upper left corner of the fabric. So I'm going to click OK. It's going to show you exactly what they mean. Click OK again. Now it's going to move into position. Now it's going to give you this little crosshair, this little T, and it wants you to put it right here. So let's see if I can get it to go over there. Okay, and I'm going to go down just the hair because I did leave my salvage on, so I'm just going to, I don't want it to get caught. Okay. Okay. Now, If you spray baste it, it'll help stick it down. I still recommend, if you don't want to do a basting, just keeping an eye on it when it's doing these edge pieces. Some people like to put some tape down to just secure it. So then we're going to click OK. And it's going to have you do one more point on it. It wants you to align the top right point. So you're going to go of this design. So you're going to go OK. And pretty much you just want to make sure that it is at the same level, like the same straight edge as you put it over here. And so I scooted it down a little, but if you need to adjust it, these are the tools you have. You can rotate it just a little, or you can use these up and down, and you can just scoot it straight up or down. Okay? Then you click OK, and it's going to move into position. And the next part is you're going to lower your foot. We're going to cross our fingers that the thread is good, and we're going to hit go. Now, if you wanted to, you could pull the thread up at this point. And I am just going to kind of keep my hands near the edge because I don't want it to flip or catch. Just keep an eye on it. There we go. Hopefully you can all see that. I'm going to give you at least one good demo from my side. That's my plan. But this is just a fun little design. It's simple. I like designs that don't have too many points. When you have designs that have a lot of points in them, they take a lot longer to stitch out. So if you're really trying to just get something stitched out really quick, avoid points. And this is really fun to watch too. You know, it's doing its thing. This is why we have embroidery machines. Let's put them to work. It's almost done with this section, and then I'll show you how you advance it to the next section. So what it's going to do now is it's going to go over here and it's going to place a little like X. And this is so when you do the next row after this, it will have you find this point. Okay. Okay, so now right here it says embroidery is finished. Okay, to continue connect next pattern. Okay. So then it's going to grab the new pattern, and now it's telling you to re-hoop. So something I like to do before I re-hoop, I will actually go okay, and then it's showing you need to line the last point with the new point, so you go okay. So what I like to do is I go over here to the machine and it drops the little T there. So I will take off my magnets, and this way, when I re-hoop, I can make sure this T is close to that end point. I can always adjust it a little bit if I need to. I'm going to do the magnets. Okay. And so it shifted a little bit, but we can adjust. So then we go to our machine, to our screen, and we want that T to go down and line up. Okay, so if you look here, it is now on that dot, and you can always put your needle down and you can see where it hits it. So it's like a hair high. So I'm gonna lower that or raise that up, and I'm just gonna go. There we go. Okay, so now that is lined up. You're going to click OK. And now it's going to have you find your next point, because if for some reason you hooped it crooked, it wants to know that it's hooped crooked, and it will adjust to your hooping. So you're going to click OK. And all you're going to do is you're going to find, so remember, I went down about 1/4 inch from that selvage right there. So I just want to scoot it down just a little. And you know, if it was wonky, you would adjust the degree. So that looks good to me. I'm gonna click OK. And then you can kind of see it has the little laser light of the design, and everything is looking good. Nothing is overlaying. I'm going to lower my foot and hit start. And now it's going to do the next. And I just keep an eye on that edge right there. Don't worry, I won't sew my finger. Now after this next one, I'm going to unhoop it so that you can see the back. So you can see how the minky side's looking. Now, if you have edge to edge and you've never done it, maybe it's been a little intimidating, I want you to kind of look at this and just see how easy it is. It really is easy. Start with a small project, maybe do placemats or a table runner. And if you're still, maybe you're trying to work on a project and you're struggling, always feel free to reach out to me. If you've taken one of my classes before, you should have my email. If you don't have my email, it's humantouchsewing@gmail.com. And you can, any of these demos, I did this one or the embroidery in the hoop project. Like if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me and I'd be glad to answer your questions. And it's going to do the little X right there. And that X is really easy to pull out with your seam ripper. So once again, it's done with that section, and it's telling you to hit OK to continue to the next pattern. And then you can re-hoop. So you can see the minky side. Let's take these off because that is what I'm about. Okay, so now you can see with the minky, it's looking great, it's holding, it's not puckering. There, if I would have pulled my thread through, you wouldn't have these little threads on the back. But the hoop really stabilizes that minky for you, so it doesn't scooch around on you and drive you crazy. So I know I could go on and on about the edge-to-edge quilting. If this is something you'd like to see more of, please make sure to comment in there. Same with the Sashiko. If you'd love to see any of this stuff more, if any of these projects would make a great class you'd love to attend or have a Zoom class in, please let us know, put it in the comments. I'm gonna pass it back over to Linda real quick and we're gonna say our last couple words.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today and bearing with our little foibles with the machines. Just like life, nothing is perfect, but we try to give you our very best.
Yes, thank you everyone for spending time with us. Sorry we were late and all the little hiccups. We really appreciate you sticking through with us. And like I said, make sure to put it in comments if you have any questions. And if you're local in the area and you want to go to Sew Expo. It starts today and goes through Sunday. It's at the Puyallup State Fairground. A lot of words there. But I thank you all and have a great day.
Bye now.